As you walk through the Texas Military Forces Museum here in Austin, Texas, one thing becomes abundantly clear. Texans always answered a call. Whether in 1836 or in today's war on terror, Texans are always there. However, Texans don't know that we not only fielded a Revolutionary Army in 1836, we fielded a Revolutionary Navy. And even fewer Texans know that absent that Revolutionary Navy, the victory at San Jacinto would likely have not occurred.
Around 1820, Spain opened their most northern region in the New World to settlers from the United States. Spain encouraged settlers to come to Texas by offering land grants. Missourian Moses Austin secured an early grant to bring 300 American immigrants to the region but died a short time later. In 1821, the newly independent Mexico affirmed a new contract for Moses' son, Stephen F. Austin, to settle Texas with families from the United States. They settled between the Brazos and Colorado rivers south of the El Camino Real. Mexico's Constitution of 1824 granted the Mexican and immigrant settlers in the state of Coahuila y Tejas the right to form a democratic state in Mexico. Inexpensive land encouraged more American immigrants to settle in the region. Many of these early settlers came by sea through New Orleans, Louisiana, or Mobile, Alabama, to Galveston, Matagorda Bay, and the mouth of the Brazos River. Tensions increased between Mexico and the settlers after the restrictive law of April 6, 1830 introduced limits to American immigration. Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, upon becoming president of Mexico in 1833, declared himself the Napoleon of the West, and began enforcing new rules, regulations, and taxation on the Texians and Tejanos who saw these as unnecessary and oppressive. Settlers in Texas had begun calling themselves Texians rather than Mexicans. These events created friction similar to that existing between the American colonies and Great Britain just before the colonies declared independence. As hostilities broke out between Texas and Mexico, the Provisional Government of Texas realized the need for a naval force to protect the sea lanes desperately needed for moving goods between New Orleans and Texas.
I recommend granting letters of marque and reprisal, by doing which we can not only prevent invasion by sea, but we can blockade all ports of Mexico and destroy her commerce, and annoy and harass the enemy more in a few months than by many-year war, carried on within our own limits.
November 1835, Provisional Governor Henry Smith. These letters of marque and reprisal created privateers who outfitted warships to attack and capture Mexican and British shipping that was helping the Mexican War effort. Privateers paid their officers and crew with proceeds from bounty taken from captured ships and sold on the open market. These licensed privateers greatly helped Texas through their captured supplies destined for Santa Anna and his forces and protection of the Texas coastline from invasion. On November 25, 1835, the Texas Provisional Government authorized the creation of an official Texas Navy and the purchase of 4 schooners of war, Liberty, Invincible, Independence and Brutus, creating the first Texas Navy. The council named Captain Charles E. Hawkins, the senior captain, as Commodore of the fleet, making Independence the Texas Navy flagship. Angered by the Texian Rebellion, General Cos and Santa Anna's army swept the region with a killing force designed to bring the Texian settlers and immigrants under iron-fisted control. While Texas was fleeing from the Mexican armies during what became known as the Runaway Scrape, delegates elected from across Texas gathered at Washington on the Brazos to organize the response. The delegates at the convention of 1836 at Washington on the Brazos declared Texas's independence from Mexico. At the same time, the delegates also framed the Constitution of the Texas Republic and set up a temporary government that included a former U.S. Navy midshipman, Robert Potter, as Secretary of the Navy. When President Burnett took the reins of the government, he commissioned officers for the Navy ships. These captains set about hiring sailors with previous naval training. The more lenient rules of the Texas Navy and less use of flogging with the cat of nine tails for minor infractions made enlisting in the Texas Navy more attractive than the U.S. Navy and the notoriously strict British Royal Navy. As a result, sailors with tactical Navy experience were quick to join the Texas Navy as both officers and crew. Still, life aboard ship was hard, except for the senior officers. Food often consisted of hardtack, salt pork, and grog. Navigation charts at the time were poor, mostly made by the British, with errors measured in many miles. This increased the danger of running aground and the loss of ships at sea. Many ships and crew were lost due to storms in the Gulf of Mexico. Quarters were crowded and primitive. The Republic had very little money, and sailors were often paid with scrip as an IOU. There was always hard work to be done to maintain the ship. Climbing in the rigging was a constant danger. Floggings and hangings were still used as punishment for major disciplinary problems. For the first month of its life, the Texas Navy spent most of its time escorting transport and supply ships between New Orleans and Texas, as well as transporting volunteers. But the little fleet soon proved to be a potent weapon. Facing issues such as low morale and limited supplies, the Republic's leadership turned to the Texas Navy with hopes of finding a way to disrupt the Mexican military efforts.
A dark cloud was resting on the affairs of Texas. They were being driven to their last stronghold, Galveston. A Mexican military expedition was fitting out at Matamoros for Galveston. On their navy alone could they rely for protection and defense.
Samuel Ellis, May 20, 1836. While quality officers commanded the Mexican Navy, their ships were large, heavy, slow to turn, and required large crews. Prisoners were frequently conscripted into the Mexican Navy to address the need for larger crews, resulting in less reliability than the more professional crews of the Texas Navy. The small, lightweight design of the Texas Navy ships made them faster and more agile. Texas warships could maneuver behind the enemy ships, providing more opportunities to damage the enemy's rigging or rudder, leaving them helpless. Another standard maneuver was to draw an enemy ship into shallow water where the larger warship with deeper draft in the water would run aground, rendering it helpless and vulnerable. The Navy focused their efforts on protecting trade lanes between Galveston and New Orleans, in addition to reducing or eliminating Mexican supplies of munitions, food, and reinforcements. These activities intensified as the need to disrupt supply lines to Santa Anna's troops and protecting Texas's ports became more essential to the success of the revolution. While the Alamo was falling to Santa Anna's siege, the Texas Navy experienced one of its most significant victories. On March 5, 1836, the Navy's schooner of war, Liberty, captained by William S. Brown, captured the Mexican schooner Pelicano. Pelicano's manifest listed provisions badly needed by both the Mexican and Texian armies. 550 barrels of flour, plus apples, potatoes, and other foodstuffs. On inspection of a smashed barrel after the Pelicano wrecked crossing the Matagorda Bar, a keg of gunpowder was discovered hidden inside. The Texas Navy had captured some 300 kegs of gunpowder destined for Santa Anna and his army. This naval victory provided needed supplies for the Texas Army and civilians in Galveston. As important as the capture of Pelicano was, an even more significant naval battle starring an agile and fast hot rod of the sea was to take place just a short time later. Captain Jeremiah Brown spent the early part of 1836 at the shipyards of New Orleans fitting out Invincible for combat. Cannons mounted on the deck as naval guns converted Invincible into a fast and formidable warship. Captain Brown anxiously requested orders to sail, and by late March he was cruising along the Texas coastline, searching for the infamous Mexican ship Montezuma, now rechristened Bravo. He found her on the morning of April 3rd. In Matamoros, Mexico was gathering a convoy of ships to deliver supplies and troops, intending to give its army the momentum to finish off the rebels. The Mexican man-o-war Bravo, which had previously been menacing the Texas coast, was to escort the convoy. The convoy's successful delivery of materials and men would likely ensure Santa Anna's victory over Sam Houston's retreating forces near San Jacinto. Sailing south towards Matamoros under the United States flag as a disguise, Captain Brown peered through his spyglass at Bravo, sitting off Brazos de Santiago, in company with Segundo Correo. Captain Brown barked out orders to his lieutenants, and Invincible turned loose a furious broadside on Bravo, damaging her rail and wounding 2 men. Bravo returned the barrage, and a general gun battle opened between the 2 vessels. For an hour or so, cannons bucked and roared as blackened, sweaty crews worked their guns. Invincible sailed around for a better position as Bravo's guns inflicted only minor damage to her rigging. Using her maneuverability to advantage, Invincible continued to inflict damage to Bravo until a new danger was spotted on the horizon. The sail noticed by lookouts took on the shape of a sizable brig. No one knew if it was armed, and not wanting to be outgunned, Invincible broke off the engagement with Bravo and made sail for the intruder. The brig, Pocket, hailed from New Orleans and flew an American flag. Her manifest indicated she carried a typical load of commercial goods bound for Matamoros. The Texians were delighted with what they found on Pocket. In addition to 600 barrels of flour and other foodstuffs, they found ammunition and supplies intended for the reinforcement operation, dispatches to Santa Anna revealing plans to land 1,000 men at Galveston, a detailed chart of the Texas coast, and 3 Mexican officers. When Colonel Morgan at Galveston received possession of Pocket's cargo on April 7th, he immediately transferred part of it to the sailing vessel Ohio and a steamboat, which delivered the vital supplies to Houston's troops encamped along Buffalo Bayou near San Jacinto. Both Santa Anna's and Houston's armies were desperately short of food, gunpowder, and ammunition. 2/3 of Santa Anna's army was foraging for food and munitions. The Texians were so desperate for supplies that their surgeons threatened to leave because a lack of flour made feeding biscuits to the wounded impossible. Both armies were demoralized to the point of threatened desertions.
Today, we face our enemy. It's the only chance we have to save Texas. Our spirits have been revived because of the Texas Navy capturing a ship called Pocket and bringing the goods to us. Although they were slated for Santa Anna and his army. Be great today. Fight for your brothers. Fight for Texas. Who's with me?
Meanwhile, Santa Anna found himself waiting nearby for needed supplies and troops that never arrived due to the Texas Navy's capture of the merchant ships Pelicano and Pocket. On the afternoon of April 21st, 1836, some 900 Texians launched a surprise attack on roughly 1,200 of Santa Anna's army. Within 20 minutes, the Mexican force was shattered, with nearly half dead and the rest prisoners, including El Presidente himself. In contrast, the Texas force suffered 8 dead, with another 23 wounded. The Battle of San Jacinto ended Mexican rule in Texas, but no one knew that just yet. The Texian army captured Santa Anna's war chest containing $18,184.87 and voted unanimously to award the Navy $3,000 for their vital contributions toward the victory.
The loss of Texas will inevitably result in the loss of New Mexico and the Californias. Little by little, our territory will be absorbed.
These words by Santa Anna's Secretary of War became reality when the annexation of Texas sparked the U.S.-Mexican War, leading to America's acquisitions of New Mexico, Arizona, California, and parts of Utah, Colorado, and Nevada. Sam Houston's victory would have been almost impossible without the actions of the Texas Navy immediately prior to the Battle of San Jacinto. If San Jacinto changed the history of the United States and therefore the world, then the role the Texas Navy played in that victory also changed world history. Captains William S. Brown of Liberty and Jeremiah Brown of Invincible became unsung heroes, and until now their contributions to this significant victory have never been fully appreciated. With a cannon salute from the Texas flagship, the revolutionary government entered a new age.
I'll sing you a song of the rolling deep, of the roaring sea and the sky, of the eve-time bell and the salt horse meal I'll never see again. There's many a night I've lied me down to hear the teat balks cry, to a melody sweet with a shantyman beat as the stars went swimming by. Don't ask me where I've bloody well been, don't ask me what I did, for every thumb was a marlin's pipe and every finger a fid. I mind the times when we was becalmed and never a breath for the sheet. The red sun was so hot that the water would rot and the decking would blister your feet. And then there's the time we's roundin' the Horn with a cargo of silk for Cadiz. The swell roll was so high it blocked out the sky till the whole ruddy world were a-fizz. Don't ask me where I've bloody well been, don't ask me what I did, for every thumb was a mark. Oh, Shambo, I long to hear you away, rolling river. Shenandoah, I long to hear you away, bound away, water. Away, you rolling river. Shenandoah, I long to see her. Away, we're bound away, across the wide Missouri. Missouri, she's a mighty river. Away, rolling river. When she rolls down, her topsails shiver. Away, we're bound away, across the wide Missouri. For 7 years I courted Sally. Away, you rolling river. For 7 more I long to have her. Away, we're bound away, across the wide Missouri. Oh, Shenandoah, I'm bound to leave you. Away, you rolling river. Shenandoah, I'll not deceive you. Away, we're bound away, across the wide